back and watch the tape.
I went back to look at something to make sure I heard it right, and I was like, wait.
Yeah,
what
just
was
the
I-
Just the first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So can I tell you,
Sorry, guys.
do you mind if I run through those again? Because let me tell you why. I was in Norwich, Vermont. We didn't record something and then we had to go redo the entire meeting, so. I'll just-
Yeah,
She started it again, so.
Yeah, it started now, sorry.
So basically, we identified the phase one scope, which is the roofing, the HVAC underneath, the lighting, the ceilings, and the electrical improvements is roughly $5 million. It could be financed with an 18-year lease at about $430,000 per year, with a 15-year lease at $482,000 per year, or with a 10-year lease at $649,000. Now, you can, if there is a sweet spot in the budget, like sometimes, and I know that sometimes districts have, like we're dealing with Hooksett right now, where they have expiring debt of X coming off, and so then they say, okay, we want to try and hit this number, so.
It's great planning, love them.
Yes.
It's great superintendent tape.
Yes. So if there was an expiring bond, sometimes we say, okay, maybe we do a 13-year deal because we have 750,000, again, coming off or something like that. And just as a quick reminder, one of the things that we were asked to do, which Matt spent some time doing, is breaking the roofs out, and I'm sharing this on my screen now, by complete phases. So rather than just say, okay, if we did the roof, and then the HVAC, so what this is we took each of the 4 roof areas, which range from 138,000 for roof H, because there's very little mechanical over there, to 1.5 for C1, 1.7 for C2, or 1.6 for D. And then, and that would be a soup to nuts of that area, complete down to
Everything
the.
that fell underneath that roof.
Yeah,
So C1, that picks up everything, HVAC,
Yes, windows.
ceilings, lighting,
Yes.
windows.
yes.
What's the total versus alternate total on this?
So then we went, there was some different alternates that we had talked about adding, and which are relatively minor in comparison. But the first alternate would be to remove cover board. So in Brad's design, he called for a top layer of rigid board that kind of protects the insulation. And so if we took that out, it would save 26,000 on roof C1, or 86,000 if you go across the 4 roofs. Roger had asked for some walking pads to service the equipment. And so that added 12,000 total, or 6,000 for roof C1, 3,000 for C2. And
Hey, keep in mind that when you look at that, I only did, they bill us by linear foot. So I truly only did what was on that roof. So any connecting roofs are not included.
Right,
So there are some areas for the center of the building
and the drawing I gave was the full roof completed, you know
Right.
what I mean? Obviously, that's
So
what we want.
I just wanted to make it clear that it's truly only what falls on those 4 roofs.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's understood. I just,
Okay.
I wanted to, for myself, that's the layout that I want to see, you know what I
Yep.
mean? Once completed, but if we're only doing roof C1, it only includes walking paths for C1. Right, makes sense.
That's it.
the last alternate is the existing wiring that we saw is in Romex, which is what you see in your house. So if you go to your basement and you see the wires coming out of the panel, 9 times out of 10, it's that plastic encased wire called Romex. It's generally not allowed in commercial buildings, but from what we can see, a lot of the work at Amherst Middle was done with that type of wiring. So when those ceilings are down, there's a chance the electrical inspector is just gonna make you bring it up to code, because what you're supposed to do in commercial buildings is either conduit, which I'm just, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
MC
or MC cable, depending on the application, which is just a shielded, it's a much more rugged shield.
Yeah, and the scary thing about that is it comes down to local jurisdiction. The book actually states that in school settings, if it's been under use and is being utilized already, it doesn't need to be upgraded, but there are some, local areas that will require that upgrade.
Okay. 60,000 per big areas, and that's basically an allowance. We didn't trace out every foot of wire, but that's sort of what we think.
Yeah, it was a guesstimate, to be honest. 'Cause until
We
get
would
up
wanna
there.
do that regardless of if the inspector is saying yes or no, because Romex, this middle school's not going away.
And this place is pestilence.
As soon as we
So,
change,
I just want to chime in briefly about the cover board, because Mike's right. The cover board basically protects the insulation and creates a more resilient surface for hail and other impact. So the roof lasts longer. What it also does, just so everybody is making an informed decision, is it insulates the fasteners because there's a mechanical fastener that holds down the insulation, and then you would hear the roof on top of that. By putting in the cover board, which is basically high density insulation, it insulates the fasteners from the roof. And that way you're basically stopping the fastener from being a thermal conductor or a cold conductor, where the cold will travel through the fastener into and through the roof deck. So what happens if you don't have that insulation is that you're more likely to have condensation on the fasteners themselves inside the building. They'll sweat. Okay, so the bottom of the nail is going to sweat inside the building, and you could get some dripping onto the roof tiles, which can happen. So one of the way we get around that is we adhere the cover board to the top layer of insulation, and it acts like an insulator for the fasteners. So that's the other reason we like to do the cover board. There's a lot of roofs out there that are not done with the cover board. It is an option. It's not mandatory. So I think it's good that you've seen what the cost breakout is.
that is great. Brad, did we do cover board in Golden Brook? I feel like no.
I think it was taken out. It was VE'd out.
Thank you, Brad.
We have $1.9 million in the maintenance trust.
Oh, we will July 1.
Well, approved, not in yet. That's how. If we put $1 million down on phase one, that lowers the payment to.
Just give me a few minutes and I can tell you that. So how many years do you want to,
Like to do it in 10.
10, okay, so give me 2 seconds.
This is what I'm doing. 7-1. 7-1. Then you gotta add it up to some more. Approved like this.
No,
Synchronize it.
it's all of this. They're talking.
Then we also need to think about when do we continue it, because this is only
Yeah,
phase
now
one.
we need to pick up phase two.
K or what we're gonna commit.
So it's that horseshoe in there, small.
Millions of down payment, we're gonna get some payment, it's gonna be $350,000 a year.
It's not bad.
It's the oldest, it's all of our oldest roofs.
What comes out of fund balance? We did that out of fund balance.
72.
Anybody, like, when we did ours, we made the payment out of fund balance.
How much do you say?
Anybody doing that?
But then
So it wasn't added to the budget.
what was it?
So,
Using unassigned fund balance.
so basically,
Pay the mortgage.
I'm trying to think.
We had to make sure we always had enough left.
Right?
We always did.
We also are holding it in our bank account. It didn't pass, we have it covered, because we're carrying 300,000 Amherst schools, we wanna always keep 300.
You didn't have enough left over?
Yeah.
No, you full budgets to get one left over, you just do.
Yeah.
So is that 60?
Yeah, approximately for those.
Well, it depends if
For
you're
these three combined?
You and I can guarantee.
Yeah.
Not 600, we're not counting,
No.
just.
And then
And
it
then
was,
it was
yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's 300,
Yeah.
come on,
So-
no number, no
so-
number.
546 for 10 years. So you were at, for the 10-year, you were at 649.
It drops in how much by 100?
It drops it by 100.
We're doing 15.
150,000?
So we have to go 15 years, yeah.
What's 15?
Well, what do you guys wanna do? What do you wanna do? I mean, this
What's
stuff
your-
lasts forever. this does last, it's not like you're buying a car and spending 20 years, this stuff is 30 years, this stuff will last, you can stretch, I just hate stretch because we got other projects.
We gotta come in under 20.
I thought so too.
15 years is
Yeah.
405.
You gotta get up there.
That's it.
That's serious, yeah,
It's the number.
no more than that.
Okay, so-
What if we put 1.2 down?
Yeah, we could do that.
What if we did 1.2?
What is it, we have 1.9?
Okay, we have a lot of
We need
time.
300 to
I'm
stay.
trying to review more than that.
Plus I gotta
No, I
have,
agree with
plus I
that.
gotta have.
Because I'm review more, Roger.
That's
Roger,
the 300.
Yeah.
Roger, if the building had passed.
Okay, hold on, we need to pause for a second. So we're recording the meeting, which means that when people watch the meeting back, there's gonna be a lot of side.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Okay, so
We'll
because
do
we're,
question and answers in a minute.
just hold on a second, because we're recording the meeting, there's gonna be a lot of like side chatter. And what happens on the owl is it like shifts and doesn't really know what's going on and can't pick up any of our conversations.
And I
just to-
think, to make that point, everyone should assume that when more than one conversation is happening at a time, I'm not in the meeting. I can't understand what's being said.
Right, so we need to make sure that all of these conversations are important, but we need to make sure we go like one by one and move on to the next conversation.
So the superintendent asked if we were to do a 15-year lease on the $5 million project, round numbers, and put 1.2 million down, what would be the estimated annual payment? And it's 386,000.
Under 400 is not a bad gig, everybody.
Yeah.
15 years. And the life of this stuff is 30, right?
Yeah.
Oh, winner, chicken dinner. That's a good financial stewardship.
So that payment though would be a separate article, you're thinking?
It can be, we can pay it out of fund balance, or we can put it in the budget. I mean, that's something to think about.
So going back to that, what are we getting done for that? It's the perimeter of the library, C1, C2,
D and H.
D and H. D, H, okay.
Is that the right first phase one, Roger? I mean, that's.
No, it is, these are our issues,
That's your issue,
right around the library here. This is back to stage, we want to pick that up. This is still ballasted, this is still ballasted. We added that for an alternate. It's not this area, you know what I mean?
So those other two pieces are pieces that would be a phase two?
These would have to be phase two.
Yeah.
Because this is original ballasted, and then we would still have K, which is still ballasted there as well.
And what's the condition of those roofs?
They're
How
in
much?
need of replacement, but they are not leaking like these areas are leaking. So that's the thing, as we're talking a 10-year, my head instantly goes to is when are we start picking up these? Is
Tell
that,
me when. Tell me when
I'd say 5 years, we have to have
they can
these
handle 5
completed.
years? All right, that's when the bond's coming up.
That's what I was just
That
saying,
little
to
bond's
ask,
coming
when
up.
does that bond come up?
Then I have
27, 28?
That's a couple $100,000
Ish.
a year.
Then I think you align it with that, then
Yeah,
these,
phase 2 goes bond.
yes,
So is phase 2 leaking right now?
no,
All right. That would irritate me.
phase 1 is here.
So we're gonna
C1's
fix the
worst.
leak. What if I'm sorry, you put 1.5 down?
As a down payment?
Yeah.
Is that gonna remain money in the balance?
300, over 300.
500.
Oh, 500.
Did we have any money that needed to go to Wilkins this year out of that?
All we have planned is roof and unit ventilators. So if we leave 500, I feel better than 300. 300 is 100 per building, but because the building project didn't pass,
Right.
I mean, I feel like we need a buffer.
Yeah.
So we'll have about 2 million. If we spend 1.5, we'll have about 500 left.
So at today's rates, it was 357.
Okay.
Well, that's
that's-
better.
It's even better.
It's a good number.
Yeah, that's the
So
number.
if you, and this is a long time away, but just, if you put it on a separate warrant article, and it's still only 50%.
Yeah.
Isn't that crankiness for the community saying that you're being shifty?
Oh, yeah, someone will say that.
So I prefer if you're gonna do it, the nuance, shove in the budget, because the nuance is too much to overcome in this community right now.
Yeah.
That you did this, and what do you mean it's not 0.6? And you're trying to pull a fast, all of a sudden, it's not about the project, it's about,
That's about the way that it was.
I'm just
Yeah,
talking.
no, I don't disagree with the line of thinking that you're on there.
You with me? You picking up what I'm putting down?
Yeah.
Because
So
I,
you think in the budget, 357 in the budget.
I do.
Well, but
Or you could pay it out of fund balance.
So can we talk through a couple other things?
Then you don't move anything else
Just
forward.
for Mike and Matt's time here, I
And
think
you'll see
financing,
that- Yeah, we'll talk about that.
So- talk to me about this. If we gave you commitments to say hypothetically, we want to go with C1, C2, D, what do we do this summer? Are we able to do realistically? And when do you need that go?
So the roofers, can they do it this summer? You think so?
Yes, but we need that go
Yesterday?
yesterday.
If we said by mid-May, we could give you the go, is that too late?
For what?
We can't give.
Summer work.
I'm just talking through this.
We can't commit to this until it goes to the voters.
No, we know that.
Oh,
we just want to talk through timeline wise.
Oh, the future.
Yes,
Or next year.
that's all. Well, for next year, I guess we're
Well,
talking
So,
next year.
so now, okay, so if we're.
Next year, we're
Buy
fine
this, man.
for any of it.
Yeah, we can't, because we have 1.5, but we can't commit to the financing.
Long term.
Right, so you'd have to
That's
break
right.
it up, you'd have to give us what you can do for 1.5 million.
We could do that, but
But so my
As a
other question
separate
though is,
project.
but isn't it, if it's in the budget each year, then each year we're hoping the budget passes, so how can you ever commit to doing it?
Oh, because you cut to fund it. Cut to fund, because you cut to fund. it.
Once
we'll
it's
get
in,
the
once
fall
it's
and
in.
we'll cut the fund. It'll be terrible.
The same thing, if,
but-
or you freeze a budget to fund it and fund balance.
So to back up, because I think what Roger was asking about summer work, we were very committed to starting something this summer. So that we could demonstrate that we were getting to work.
I know,
Okay,
that's why we
That
have to
would-
figure out what can we do for
okay.
1.5 million? And
Okay,
what is the lack of efficiency
right,
So-
that increased cost by not doing a whole
Financing.
phase at once?
right.
So,
But if you're using that 1.5, does that cut out your down payment?
It does, that means, but the project gets smaller
The
now, it's a
project gets smaller.
$3.5 million
So you could do it
project.
that
So
way.
we say we're only gonna do roof C1 this summer.
that's 1.5 without the alter, or it's 1.6 without the alternates.
But
But the truth is, it really, the units are never coming this summer.
We know HVAC is gone. at
But
this
in that
point.
1.5 is the HVAC too. just
Oh,
to
so
be-
we could be all right.
Oh,
So what we could do is do and I'm just thinking this on the fly, but do the roof and the curbs this summer.
Mhm.
And then,
And that's
Which
where
makes
I'm
no
at.
leak.
Yeah.
So when do
Which
you,
I would love that.
Ventilators.
When do you
can
need-
always use leave the unit ventilators in.
yes, just put the curbs.
And then
Put that
put the
down.
curbs, put all the ductwork
that's,
in.
that's.
get
But
all-
when do you
we
need-
Get all the lighting done, all the ceilings back, and then once they come,
But-
we drop the unit.
when do you need to go for the roof of
It's
C1?
really now.
Guys, they're
It
asking
is
again.
now.
I'm nervous if you said wait till May.
Yeah, I don't think that
That's
would
too
work.
late.
So just,
Even now I'm nervous,
so
but like,
I just want to talk realistically, then this isn't realistic to do this summer. We just need to all be on board that this isn't happening, or you need an approval to do just a small section yesterday for
The
just
reason
the
though-
roof.
The reason why we're not doing it this summer is because when we do we can gain cost efficiency savings by
Yes.
doing it
you
a $5
definitely
million
can't-
project.
yeah.
And we're being stewards of each and every dollar that we've given. And so though we're gonna sort of have to have a little problems with leaks, we're gonna save money over time.
Unless you wanted to show good faith and just do H.
What's age?
The H is no
Just behind the
HVAC.
stage.
Yeah.
How much
Just a
is that?
little area.
That's what we,
one-
that's
that's
what we
leaking.
talked about.
143.
How much that cost us?
143,000.
That's what we had talked about.
That's
so
what
it's
we
over
talked
the
about.
stage.
Just a good faith start,
And we can do that, and you guys can do that this summer?
That's what we
Yes,
need to do.
Winner, chicken dinner.
And you
Yes.
could wait, it's so small, you could wait to mid-May for the approval.
Yeah,
I could wait till mid-May.
yeah.
I can-
Squeeze that one out.
100%.
So that.
And that's what we had talked about.
And that's all I was trying to
Yeah, no,
get around
no,
to.
we got back to
Good job.
that. Thank you, Roger.
Yeah.
So that would need to go to the board as a recommendation.
Yeah, so we have a board meeting on May 16th, is that
Yes.
to?
No, that's mid-May. I think it's
Yeah,
by the
no, I'm
17th,
just
we'd
being
say.
Precise, first date, so that, May could mean different things to different people. Is that?
Can you share this with
Right.
us?
I think it is.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a small enough roof where honestly, most of our roofing subs would have materials on hand to do that, and it's not like ordering a bulk load to do those larger roofs.
I try and make it
So-
to pretty upset.
Great job, thank you.
That's good.
Love
Is
it.
that just the membrane or with the hardboard?
So it's 143, sorry, let me just walk through H, so we had a $4,200 credit to delete the hardboard. So my base bid was 138,184. I had a credit, and Roger has all these numbers, the hard numbers. We had a 42,
I'll set it both you right now.
333 credit to delete the hardboard, and then a $9,700 ad. So if you don't take the credit in for the walking pads, if you don't take the credit, but do take the ad, it'd be 147,939.
And the ad is for the electrical,
Oh, sorry.
I believe,
Yeah, it's
right?
the electrical,
Yes,
sorry.
so,
Yeah.
just so you know what that ad is.
Yeah, and doing it right. Doing
Getting
something
the
right
Romex out of there,
and then
and
you don't have to
yeah.
worry about it. Yeah, we'd have a fire, so you know.
It's a brick building.
It'd be a big one.
Yeah.
This is great.
So can I ask a question? And you may have answered this at one point in time earlier on, but so you just talked about your bid for that phase of the project. So when you bid this out,
Mhm.
how many bids do you get?
3.
That's right. And so you have all those, right?
He has
He
those,
has
yes.
all
He
those.
can
So we
provide
have
them
access
at
to
our
those.
request.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you.
It's a great question. That's why when we first met with Mike, we made sure they were bidding it out. That was one of the questions that we had.
Right, and so the number that we're looking at now out of, so you bid it out and you received 3 bids.
Yes.
On most everything. I think rooftop equipment was one of the few that we didn't get multiple bids on, but we could always,
Yes.
we know,
But
we-
the roofing, which is the current.
yeah, the roof, the big part of it, the roofing, the electrical, and the mechanical.
I will tell you, we
That's the
sent
big-
it out to several roofers that were already booked for the summer. And we were kind of going with this summer plan. So it's possible that if we talk about start bidding it out, the C1, C2, and D for next summer, we can get more bids. Cause like one of the ones you gave me was A&M out of Mass.
Yeah.
They were booked, so they couldn't bid it.
And it'd be interested to give them the opportunity,
Yeah.
because I mean,
Yeah.
roofing funds can fluctuate between companies, especially if they're packed, they're gonna throw $300,000 more just to,
And we use A&M regularly. I was just on the phone with Steve Davies the other day, so.
you know, all of the roofers were great. You had Skyline, Melanson, A&M, they're all qualified
Yeah,
companies,
yeah.
so.
Who's low right
IRC,
now? IRC.
And so is that the number then? that
Yeah,
goes
that's
to us
what I
as well?
use,
Okay,
yeah.
that was my question, because I know it'll come
because
up. sometime.
quality wise, there's no difference between those three, so it was chosen on price. And actually Skyline came back and gave us a number, but in big bold letters said we cannot commit till next summer.
Yeah.
So
What's
we,
their warranty, 2 years on labor?
off the top of my head, I don't know.
Can we try to get 2 years on
Yeah.
all roofers?
Yes.
Where'd you pull the interest rate from?
We got a quote from municipal leasing out of Vermont. I will say, so just, municipal leasing does about 90% of our deals. Occasionally the districts, rather than using them, will do a bid, like Hollis does their own bid. Municipal leasing is like a mortgage broker, so they'll go to many banks for us and then give us the best rate, but some districts decide to just go out on their own on leasing, so.
And so this rate's only good for a little while, right?
Oh, it is, I mean, yes, so usually.
This is a big estimate.
This is, if you were to close on it today, we can do it for this, but if it's next March, like, it
Probably
could,
this next month, probably.
yeah, cause I mean, I will tell you, a couple of years ago, we were doing these deals at, 2.75, and now we're at 4.8.
Yeah.
Now, the nice thing about a lease versus a bond is you can refinance a lease. So if the rates drop in a couple of years back to where they were, then you could refinance.
As many times as you want.
Mhm.
Is there any penalty paying it off early?
No, it's like a $1 penalty.
Hey, Hop did Bank of America.
Yes,
Do you guarantee savings?
yes. What that amount is gonna be, is,
What, from the lights and stuff?
yes.
Yeah, HVAC system, we're
Yeah.
going higher efficiency.
So what's not included in these numbers are rebates and the guaranteed savings, so that, the net budget impact, if the rate was 4.8% is less than 357, but at the same time, it's sometimes good to carry that, because we should get, 100,000 in rebates, we should get some energy savings, but this is a conservative.
Right, and you could lose that interest rate in a second anyway,
Yes,
so it's better to keep it.
that's right, that's right.
Awesome.
Did you have I know you were talking with Matt. You have
Just
the
about the walking pads, that, I mean, we're just kind of discussing the makeup of the construction. And for that section of roofing, that's H, is there anything on there for walking pads?
No.
Because there's no equipment up there,
Yeah,
correct?
you can see, it stays right off the edge of it, because they moved that piece. So even though that does technically feed in there, most of the HVAC is in here, so I excluded
That's
all
understandable.
that HVAC.
That's understandable.
So the walking pads that I picked up are around these 3 units.
Yeah.
And then these 2 connecting. And that was it. And by all means, if you change your mind where you wanna get something out here to the other end, we can always.
Yeah, we can go
implement
over that.
but That's not what the numbers reflect. And the one other thing that I was telling them, just, they're starting to go a different way. They're not actually walking pads anymore. They're actually a board system with a texture to it. Which keeps it from popping up and becoming more of a trip hazard
Yeah,
than what
nice.
it is without. So
That's
it's actually-
interesting.
It's a cool
Right on the
system.
membrane or underneath that?
No, right onto the top of the membrane.
Is it like gypcrete or something like that?
No, it's a rubber texture. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but.
It's good, and I only want it around the rooftop, just mechanical service like, people are putting their bags down, it's just it's protecting the membrane around.
They actually, which I built into the price, they do a little bit thicker, it's high impact compared to just walking.
Yeah,
So I did high impact around all 3 of the units and then just walking grade on the rest of it.
great. Awesome.
Are you available on May 16th to attend our board meeting?
One of us would be.
I think it would be beneficial, to have some of these, to have that presentation to the
Yeah.
full board, right?
Like more at a higher level of all
So-
the stuff we walked through, or what are you looking for?
So the board themselves have not, I mean, what has been shared? I guess
They would
like,
like to see the phasing
areas?
plans.
Right. So the fact that we're breaking it out has been shared.
Yeah.
But needing to explain, these are the areas that are in the worst shape, kind of, if you think of it from a public perspective, it would be like an introduction to the public of the plan.
So I'd almost start earlier into the whole building.
Yeah.
And then, probably what I did with you, like a much more abbreviated, here's
Yes,
what we saw, here's the process. And then, here's why we are going with rooftops versus keep it, go through all that history that the
Yeah.
public would probably want.
yeah, exactly.
That they care.
I'm hoping they're,
Right.
Maybe
I think so. I think we're talking about
No reason not to.
no little money. It's a
Right.
big dough.
Right.
It's good.
I mean, I
planning.
just want the board to be really fully
I think you're right on.
I want the board,
informed on the planning process, because this is a multi-year.
And we're
we need
changing the
everything.
entire
Totally
environment,
agree.
we're doing a better, just air quality environment for the
That's right.
building.
And I
that
want,
we're
I want the
completely
board to
changing
hear
it.
that, I want the
Yep.
community to
we're-
hear that. this
we're in
maintenance
one-
but-
Okay, right on.
Souhegan High School,
Okay.
Yeah,
what time?
it's gonna be at 6 PM on May 16th.
Yeah.
And they'll do their best to try to get you to the front of the agenda, so you guys aren't hanging around.
yeah, no, I think that's, and also even if you could just briefly touch on, EEI's process with the bidding process, like all those questions that come
The
up in the
schools you've worked with,
community,
Yes.
that'll go
Yeah,
very, a long way.
to touch on that is helpful too.
it sounds like you guys have probably done this in many
Oh,
districts.
times, yes.
We are
Yeah.
approaching you, asking you to give us anything, everything that you
Yeah.
can, because our community has been going through this for a few years, and we need to move some things across the finish line.
I will tell you, our top construction super went to Souhegan, and he keeps being afraid that I'm gonna make him come to him. 'Cause I guess, do you guys know about the senior project?
Yeah.
I guess he had a pretty memorable senior project, so he,
Oh,
that
that's so funny.
it's like, I'm giving you a D, get out of here.
Public school at its best.
Yeah.
This is great, thank you. Do we need these guys for
So
anything
much
else?
for your time. No, we look forward to seeing you on
Also
May
16.
16th.
The bids, if you can make sure that we have those shared, so that
Yeah,
we can make sure that we're going
Yeah.
through policy and things like that to.
Yep. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Cross
Thank you, guys.
T's and dot
Thank you very
I's.
much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Yep.
Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming, Matt.
yeah, no problem. Sorry again. I was there.
Or you went to the site of the work.
Yeah,
We just don't have a lot of space over there, so we meet here. instead.
Right,
Yeah.
now makes
Yeah.
sense.
Plus, there's no air
Bye-bye.
conditioning.
Bye-bye. Thanks, guys.
Brad, thank you.
Have a good one.
Absolutely.
But you don't stop.
I'm not stopping
Yeah.
recording. I'm continuing recording.
I'm gonna,
This is good movement.
Good.
It is, absolutely. It's just big. I wish it was smaller money, but what it is, things cost money.
Yeah.
Keeping your home, keeping buildings costs money. New roofs on houses cost money too.
And it's a big space, right? It's not a small school that we're talking about
It's
doing.
been
this.
neglected.
Right.
Well, and ideally, that leaves us just industrial arts to go through. I know we have the back of the kitchen roof to do, but industrial, if you're looking at the building, annex is the newest portion of the building. Then we're hitting these three actually, annex rooftop would be the next. For me, I'd go industrial arts and then circle back to the annex at the end.
So I think that's something that we're gonna have to plan for also, when we show this is, okay, and
Long-term.
what are the long term? What are the next two phases? So I don't know if you wanna talk about those now, or I don't know if we wanna think about those later. But, or if you've, if you've thought about those areas enough at this point to know.
He had it out in the last time he was here, it was all listed out.
No, I know, I meant
Yeah.
Rogers.
I don't think the wiring was including in that, like all the electrical.
Would that
There
be
was some
built?
electrical pertaining to the lighting that was in there, but I don't think they included any other wiring that was above the ceiling.
Yeah.
So that's something that we need to think about, that's added to each area, which would be those three roofs, I mean, that's 60 apiece estimated. So there's another 1.8. It's the right thing to do. It definitely is. You want it done right one time and that's it.
Absolutely, because, yeah, I totally agree.
And is that area, that new wing, is that the old wiring? Do we know if that's the old wiring?
No, this is the newest wiring. Where we popped the ceiling tiles were in these areas back here. This is where over the years or the original building, they've added Romex.
Okay,
Instead of
So
cable
over-
or conduit.
Just as common. I mean, if they're, especially if you get a contractor and they're getting away with it, they're putting
Yeah.
Romex in the ceiling. I mean, Romex isn't allowed in a drop ceiling in a commercial environment, but when the school was built, it was allowed.
right.
We haven't heard anything about the ceiling tiles, are they fine?
What's that?
Ceiling tiles are all fine.
So-
Yeah, that's right.
I have found two binders for the industrial arts wing and these areas that say that they've been abated from an abatement contractor. I have not been able to get the actual AHIRA report that was done by Hygieia back in 1988. What that is that's the actual AHIRA report that a company comes in and they test every portion of the building. It's public information that should be sitting in the main office and a copy here. There's no copy in the main office and there's no copy here. We need to have a company come in and retest all of these areas for us. It's $8,000 for us to do it. We need to try to make that commitment out of the operating budget this year because we're required to have this information now.
This year, FY 23 or FY 24?
FY 23, I'm trying to, I just got the quote on it this morning. I'm trying to find the funds and facilities because I have some information for Clark Wilkins. We're working on middle school. As Soon as we start pulling those ceilings, we have to have the information because then.
Yeah.
So it's very common to not have 30 years of a facilities binder in a school district with the turnover that happens. The reality of it is we have to have it though. So I'm working on that. I have Ray Damaris, who I worked with in another district that has given me a quote on it that will help develop that plan and get us that information.
Okay.
But at one point, middle school did have asbestos tiles in every single portion of it, but I have abatement files saying they've been removed. We still need the
But you
test.
don't have the test that you can put.
Right,
Exactly.
so we need to test and confirm.
Yes, exactly. Same with like the pipe insulation, anything that's above the ceiling, anything.
Because you don't
can't
buy
see.
the report?
Well, you do, you buy the report, but Hygieia is out of business. It was a file that the district had in some file cabinet for 30 years that were either I'm looking for something that's just not here anymore, or it's just, I haven't.
But
been
you have
able
a
to
report
find
that says it's gonna be,
it. I do.
but that's not good enough.
No, you need the actual AHIRA file binder.
Was the company bought by another company?
No, I think they just went out of business. Because I Googled them and I work with Ray and I'm not able to contact them.
Is it a concern at Wilkins also?
It's a concern. I have some
Is it 8
information
grand for
on
the
Wil-
district or just AMS?
It's AMS, it's Clark, it's Wilkins. I
Okay.
have Clark and Wilkins information. I have Mount Vernon information. It's just AMS that's really
Oh, okay.
standing out. I do need it for Wilkins. It's just we're
Okay.
starting the project at AMS, so
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
starting there.
So the 8K includes all the
It's
schools?
just
No,
AMS.
it's just AMS.
Yes.
Okay.
It's about 200 samples that we need to do just specifically at AMS.
Okay.
It is.
Wow.
It's
But we-
thorough. That's good.
Yeah.
We worked with Ray. He already tested all the roofing materials as well. I meant to ask Mike that. Mike would have said something if it needed to be abated, because these numbers would have skyrocketed.
Mhm.
So you said you do like a couple of tiles in the rooms, because there's a lot more than 200 tiles there.
Yeah, you just do a couple thousand in the area.
Okay,
So I got another question.
sure.
When we get into like the lighting, et cetera, next year, hopefully, and the ceiling tiles and everything, et cetera, the roofing supports, they're gonna adjust the fire sprinkler system to where it needs to be, correct? Has that been, is anything changing with this, because you're adding in steel to the roof structure? Do we have to relocate any heads because of the steel going in?
We shouldn't have to, but I would say that there's probably going to be a couple that need to be relocated.
Have the heads been changed in that school at all?
No, we're at the 20-year testing point at this point.
Okay, that's good. 'Cause it's a draft, that's a wet system.
It is a wet system there.
Is that like, was that from the start of the school, or was it put in after?
It's on a public water supply, so I almost think that it was added when they added the public water supply off Pennachuck, because it used to be on a well.
Okay. Alright, so it's not.
And I know if you go, I don't think it's that, because when you go into the gymnasium, the sprinkler piping isn't painted. It's just black. It's just
Okay.
cast iron, which tells me that it came in after the fact, because typically you paint everything in the ceiling.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's good to know, because then it's not, 50 years old.
Yeah, they're still past 20 years. We send them out to get tested every year to make sure that they're going
That's good.
off, so
Very good.
we're following that testing.
Okay.
Any sprinkler heads that are over 20 years old, you have to send them out for a third party to test them to make sure that they're still gonna actually activate.
Anything over 50 is, no, you have to change it.
Yeah,
Great.
it's a great question.
I gotta run, I got a 12 o'clock.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you.
Enjoy the
Okay.
weekend.
Yeah.
Yes. Is it supposed to be nice?
Not really.
60s, right?
Not as nice as today.
Not as
Impact fee update, if there was, I think that was the next, agenda item, I don't know, do you have, awesome.
I do.
Yeah.
So. So yes, I have reached out to Debbie Bender. Let me just find my email. She's the finance director at the town. And I read through the report that was put together. They actually had a consultant who helped them with impact fees. So there's information on how to request those funds. So it looks like, in reading the material, that the request would come from the school district and would identify the public capital facility for which the funds would be spent. The district would provide a brief explanation that would allow the Board of Selectmen to determine that the use of the funds would be appropriate based on requirements of the applicable New Hampshire law and the impact fee policy. So I asked if that was the correct process to go through. I asked the town, and Debbie believes that it is. She's included the town administrator in that, and we'll be discussing that with him. So in the meantime, I'm gonna draft a memo for the board to create that memo request that would go to the Board of Selectmen. So you guys will see that at your May meeting.
Okay.
And that would start the process. So I think, you know, we don't need to have too much detail for the Board of Selectmen. I think, you know, basically architectural and engineering fees. But I do think that this group should talk about what the scope of work actually would be, because we will have to have a contract with the architect and engineers to decide what we're asking them to do. So that's not a today thing that we have to figure out, but that's something that I would suggest this group wrestle with and then go to the board with a recommendation on the scope of work.
So I haven't watched, I didn't watch the Sohegan meeting live last night. Have
Yeah.
they talked about, in a meeting, have they talked about their impact fees? And any idea of using
We haven't
those?
talked to Sohegan about it. It's harder, I think, to identify how they would use those fees. Because it's really based on how new students coming in or how, you know, the capacity of the buildings are
And that
not-
hasn't impacted Sohegan in that issue.
Right,
the way
I
that it
mean,
has
so
impacted.
we haven't really talked about that, it would, but the fees are not for just maintenance projects. It really has to be for how, either enrollment or changing population or something has happened so that it is impacting the school districts. So it's pretty clear in the Amherst School District, that it has been an impact and that architectural and engineering fees are clearly identified as an eligible use.
So what I'm wondering is if we're discussing, or if the Sohegan board wanted to discuss any augmentation to the annex or to the building, it would still be Amherst A&E fees? Or is that something that Sohegan A&E fees could support?
I would think that, I don't know, but it sounds like that would be more Sohegan.
I'm
So
just
the-
wondering, you know, like I know that we spent, what was it, like about 150,000
Yeah.
initially, and
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we need more to do a more comprehensive look at everything this time versus, you know, starting from scratch, if you will.
Well, that's what
right?
I would, I think that's probably what these fees would be for, where like, okay, you know, things didn't go well for 2 years, we tried, you know, putting something on the ballot, so now do we need to take a fresh look and come up with a new plan? And that would be the scope of work. So
Yeah.
just for example, do we want to look at doing a wing and seeing what that would cost and,
Yep.
you know, get that breakdown on, you know, a specific addition? Do we want to look at a new building plan? Yeah, I don't know. Do we
Right.
want to look at just upgrading a portion of the building? I don't know. So that's just me spitballing, but,
Okay,
The good thing is the programming is already done.
yeah,
So it's not starting that again,
right.
unless we say, hey, we want to reevaluate the numbers of students that we want in classrooms.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's.
Right.
Starting,
Right,
so
so
that's
that's a good
the wheel
point.
there, but I think what Victoria is driving at is, you know, there is definitely a strong current in the community that's talking about, why can't you utilize every building in SAU 39, right? The community's not looking at Amherst School District, Sohegan School District, and those nuanced things. So can we, I'm gonna use the word pool for a lack of a better term right now, but could we pool if the cooperative was amenable to this, because some of those members have discussed annex space potentially.
Yep.
Could we pool the funds so that we could look at more options, cost out more options? That's sort of what we're curious about, I think. And again, there's a lot of like, we need to talk about, you know, there's a lot of questions
I
there
mean,
still, but.
I could see there could be one scope of work that encompasses both work for the Sohegan Cooperative School District and Amherst, and the split of payment would be our 60%, 40%. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's possible. That would take coordination with the Sohegan Cooperative
Yeah.
School District.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
okay. Yep, okay, last, is that all?
Yep, that's all
I
I
don't
needed.
mean, but I know.
Yeah, so I guess in terms of crafting a letter to the selectmen, if we're looking to do that, that would be,
We need to have that conversation.
yeah,
Yeah.
so. You know, and I think the letter would need to have sort of a brief explanation of the project, so. And if that involves Sohegan, then we would need to bring them into the conversation before the letter would go, before the letter could be crafted to the board. Because originally I was thinking I was just gonna craft a letter from the Amherst School District to the Board of Selectmen. But now if it's from Amherst School District, School Board and Sohegan School Board, that's a different letter.
How much work do you think? Well, twofold. Number one, how much work do we think we could make? That we could really get into with the Amherst side of the funds, and how much of a difference would it make if there were additional funds and understanding from Sohegan? Like, would we have to, could we start on one direction and potentially write a second letter, or is that something that we should like talk to? I mean, obviously, as a board member, I don't speak for the board.
Yeah.
So, is that something that we should be having that conversation even sooner than we have planned?
I mean,
The sooner the better is what your face is saying.
probably, I mean, if we're gonna, we have to decide what the scope of work is gonna be.
Right.
Are we asking,
What are we doing in Amherst?
right, are we asking the architects to give us options considering the annex?
Yeah, I don't think we can answer that today. I
Right.
think that we need to meet as a full SAU board, and I think that Amherst needs to meet again and figure that out.
So we always get into the timing. So if we're talking about, okay, well, that's now a May meeting. And we know that Banwell or whoever, however this works, is, 3-4 months. We also remember that Steve's telling us that October is too late. So,
We're late right now without
I
having
know.
commitments.
Yeah.
And to say that we're gonna, it's the right thing to do, but to open it up to say, what are we gonna do at Sohegan? That to me
that's
adds 3 more months to it,
I know.
because that's an internal
If it
discussion.
doesn't pass next year, it doesn't matter.
Here.
right, if it
Like, we
doesn't,
have to get it.
But if what doesn't pass though?
Right, we can't rush a plan though,
Right.
and then have it, you know what I'm saying, have people say, well, you didn't look at all the options, right? Like, we
And
can't go through that.
I think our next meeting here needs to be, what's the plan for Wilkins?
Yes.
For just this committee to talk through.
Mhm.
I think we need to have that meeting. I don't think it wastes another month, though. I mean, I think like if we're able to meet next week, or I know April vacation, but like really, we need to talk that through.
Because that's the main driver of what you're gonna do in order to, if you're gonna use the annex for anything else.
Well, and it's what we're doing with
Well-
bandwidth, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
just that whole function of it. I think our next meeting needs to be just let's talk about Wilkins. Our Clark Wilkins, what are our plans?
Mhm.
Talk through what happened with the vote, talk through the plan and that we have in place, and then just, like Amy said, is it a small addition? Is it a small wing? Is it going with the same plan again?
I think we need more voices at this table.
Right.
I think we've turned over some committee members, and I think it would be helpful to put
Okay,
a couple more folks in, but yes.
I
we need
think
to have
so,
voices. We need to put a call out.
exactly,
Yeah.
because like that, for me, that just, my head went to, that's a month and a half before we have committee members to have that discussion.
No, I think we do it.
So I know it was talked a little bit at Sohegan last night about, they do have a building and grounds committee, but I think at SCU, there's gonna be a conversation about JFAC, whether that is moving forward or not. So I think that will be a good place to have that conversation. Because that's really the place to have the conversation, is at JFAC.
Right,
So,
yeah,
um,
so we'll know Wednesday, but I agree, we need to have a targeted discussion.
Because we're not moving forward right now, we're just still
Yep.
we're still at the vote in my head where we haven't passed it, but we don't have a plan.
Regarding Wilkins.
Yes.
Is the CNA, I know like previously you had worked with the CNA for Sohegan, so that it was all updated. Are we at that point that we could go over that at the next meeting too? To see where the CNA kind of falls for the buildings that we have for Clark and Wilkins?
We can definitely review it, and then that review will help me decide where we want to go with it, you know what I mean? As far as the adjustments to it. I haven't adjusted the CNA like I did with Sohegan because we were waiting on this, we were waiting on what we're doing at middle school. We're close to that, but yes, but I think we need to decide what we're doing with Wilkins first.
I guess I don't know what we're gonna be doing with Wilkins until we have A&E fees, until we have options kind of presented to us.
I think it's for us talking through,
What do we do?
we're knowing that the new building didn't go 2 times in a row. What are we going to be requesting Banwell to do? Are we going to ask them to give us a conceptual design for 20 classrooms? 10 classrooms, 5 classrooms? What's gonna impact the building and make a difference at the building level? Is 20 classrooms gonna make a difference? Does 5 classrooms make a difference? It's those things. I mean,
Okay.
and are we not at that yet? And we feel comfortable just saying, yeah, we're gonna go with the same design 1 more year.
No, I don't, and that's not what I mean. I guess,
And that's not what I'm looking for. I'm just
Yeah.
like, I just don't know where we are as a committee.
Because, I mean, just my point of view is like, I love the new school, I wish it passed, but now if we go 1 more year, you're gonna add 3% to that cost. So instead of it being 54, now we're looking at 58. So personally, I think it's like, you gotta cut that number in half for anything to move forward. And that's challenging.
Yeah.
It is. But then we gotta think about, are we gonna try to bring long-term, are we gonna try to bring the elementary, like 5th grade back to Wilkins? Is that, are we gonna bring kindergarten to Wilkins, or are we just gonna make an addition large enough to accommodate the 4th grade? Or do you make an addition for 4th grade and kindergarten? There's a lot of options, but. the
And then it
school
goes
needs
back-
to- But it needs to be updated.
And then we have
But
new
it's
conceptuals
phased.
because that conceptual plan now isn't meeting into half of the project.
Right. And then you
That's
need
just-
to do something about the traffic.
So we're a subcommittee of the board.
And we want to,
So I think we're actually a subcommittee of a committee of the board. So we're currently, and this is why I'm not ready to have I know we need to have that Wilkins discussion, but we're not ready to have it here because the board needs to have it. So we have to have this at the SAU meeting on Tuesday night. We have to figure out what is happening with JFAC and how we're working cooperatively across the SAU to address and discuss. And then, because the JFAC needs to be given a charge from the board that says, this is what we want you to do, right? Otherwise, we're just people sitting around in a room right now talking, we're not empowered or authorized to do any of it. You know what I'm saying?
Wouldn't the
I
board
agree, I
want
just-
some type of idea of like discussion of what the thought was on moving forward? I mean, we don't have to hammer nail it out, but a couple of general ideas of what to do, so the board is kind of understanding a path forward? Or is that?
I think that we need to have the discussion as a full SAU board, because I think there are a lot of ideas on the direction there, and every direction materially changes what we do with an architect, right?
Yes, it does.
So we could recommend and go down this path of a wing that just takes care of the 4th grade, where the full board could be like, no, that's not what's best for our students. Or, we want you looking at, a 7th and 8th grade center. Like, I'm just throwing things out there, but I don't want us to waste our time with those things until we have that charge.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
We need to say. Yes, we will.
I know.
so maybe this group looks
I
at a
think we've
calendar
lost the
and
time for
see.
next year already.
Because it takes.
I really
at
do.
least a month for them to do the drawings.
I would say 2 to 3.
Well, we can't rewind. This is where we are. So what are we gonna do to get the wheels? Keep the wheels moving, and I think we need to feel really good because I'm excited about AMS. We've kept the train moving forward. I'm excited about H.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, it's good. I think it's good. It's a good meeting.
These guys are great.
All right.
I'm not 100% with you. Anything else that we need to talk about today? I had a place on the agenda for other updates. Anything going on, Roger, that you,
No, nothing that I want to start getting into this meeting about, no.
okay. Awesome. With that, then, it says discuss recommendations. We don't really have, but our recommendation.
Well, the
then
recommendation is the AMS
It's
piece.
AMS
Yep,
147.
love it. So.
And then the next step
So
in
we'll go
that
to the board.
recommendation is that next year we would like to put the lease in the budget. Is that what we're,
Yeah.
yeah,
We're gonna move forward. It's a fair price.
Yep.
Especially with some down.
and then the next phase, phase 2, is the long range outlook is that we would like to time that with the debt that will be going off in 5
The
years.
expiration. in FY
The
28.
expiration of that,
Yeah.
and
We try to do a 5-year bond on that project and then we go 5 years, continue on. I like the 5-year timeline.
Yep. And so that gives the community an expectation.
Yeah.
It takes care of the roof.
Gets us through middle school in 20 years, which seems like a long time, but it actually isn't.
Are we concerned that we're
15.
replacing the roof and doing this HVAC project? And the walls are, like, is it a, like, are there other things too that over the next 20 years we need to
Class
be
configuration.
getting geared up for? And obviously, we're not gonna answer any of that right now, but
I mean, that's really a sort of a redo of the CNA,
Well, yeah,
you know.
I think see what we're able to do with the classroom shapes when we do the ceilings and that type of stuff. Is that what you're talking about? That's where my head went to.
or anything, really, like, we know we have issues, we don't have enough electrical outlets, or, it's the lipstick on the pig, right? Like, it's not really lipstick, because we need to fix the roof.
Yeah, but this is HVAC, this is the whole environment, like, this is a huge piece.
Yeah.
Huge piece.
It's
And we know
lighting,
that the
it's
envelope
ceiling.
is already, like, we already had confirmation that the envelope of the building is good.
Yeah.
So
Middle
now we're
school is
fixing the
that
roof.
100-year building. It's a
Yeah.
block building, it's a brick building, it's
Yeah.
what we were proposing to build 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Middle school is that.
Okay,
But
I'm just asking the question. I'm not-
isn't it possible to use some of the funding to have a quick redesign of the interior of that school? Because are those walls like, I've only been in one little part of AMS. Are they retractable walls? Are they actually?
There are movable walls within the classroom, hallway corridors are block, exterior walls are block.
But you can reconfigure those retractable walls to
You
make
can.
better shape. That's what I was, is there a possibility to use some of the impact fees
Mhm.
to do a quick little redesign possibility of classroom configuration?
And we have that already.
Oh, you did?
Well, because 2 years ago, we
That's what
proposed a
did
whole
with
new,
the ballot.
Okay.
2 years ago, they did the drawings for middle school.
Yeah.
When we first proposed middle school and Wilkins at the same time, we had drawings for middle
We
school.
had a full
Okay.
district plan. It just
So you
was a lot
could
more.
possibly, as we're phasing, go in, and if we're hitting a certain section of the school and redoing the ceiling and all that jazz, it's possibly reconfigure.
Yeah.
That one phase of one area of the school.
Without a doubt, at
That's
least
a
getting pricing
possibility.
for it. you
Yeah,
know,
pricing,
yeah,
yeah.
Exactly.
Good reminder.
And while they have everything apart, that's the time to do it. You know what I
You're
mean?
taking practically everything out.
Yeah.
And they're gonna redo the wiring, possibly lighting and everything, so you could move some of those retractable walls without a doubt.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't disagree.
Awesome. Great,
Awesome. Do you know how to stop that?
thank you.
Are we finished?
Yeah.
Yes.
We're adjourning the meeting at 12:15. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.